The sun dipped low over the rolling hills of the countryside, casting a golden glow across the patchwork fields of clover and wheat. A soft breeze rustled the tall grasses, carrying the scent of wildflowers and the distant hum of a sleepy village. Nestled at the edge of a crumbling stone wall, half hidden by a tangle of ivy, was a small burrow beneath an ancient oak. This was no ordinary burrow, for it housed a family of cats. A mother named Ember and her 4 kittens. Sage, the eldest, with fur as silver as moonlight. Thistle, bold and brash, his tabby stripes like ripples in a stream. Clover, the smallest, with eyes wide as saucers. And Ash, quiet and thoughtful, his black coat blending with the shadows. Ember was a creature of grace, her amber eyes sharp with wisdom earned through seasons of survival. Her russet fur gleamed under the sun, but today, those eyes were clouded with pain. The previous night, a fierce storm had swept through the valley, tearing branches from trees and flooding the nearby creek. Ember had ventured out to find food for her kittens, still too young to hunt, when a falling branch struck her hind leg. She had dragged herself back to the burrow, her breath ragged, her leg useless. Now, she lay curled in the soft earth, her warmth fading as the kittens pressed against her, their tiny mews filled with fear. Sage, barely 6 weeks old but with a heart fierce as a lion's, took charge. "We can't stay here waiting," she declared, her voice trembling yet firm. "Mother needs help, and we're the only ones who can find it." Thistle, ever eager for adventure, puffed out his chest. "I'll fight anything that tries to stop us. Foxes, dogs, anything." Clover whimpered, her tiny frame shivering. "But it's so big out there. What if we get lost?" Ash, silent until now, flicked his tail thoughtfully. "We won't get lost if we work together. Mother always said the village has kind humans. They might know how to help." The burrow was a safe haven, its walls packed with earth and lined with moss, but beyond it lay a world vast and perilous. The kittens had never ventured farther than the meadow, where Ember taught them to pounce on beetles and chase butterflies. Now the path to the village wound through dense woods, across a rickety bridge over the swollen creek, and past the territory of a notorious tomcat named Scar, whose yowls echoed through the night. Yet, the thought of their mother's labored breathing steeled their resolve. As dusk painted the sky in hues of violet and orange, the kittens emerged from the burrow. Sage led the way, her ears pricked for danger. Thistle bounded beside her, his eyes gleaming with excitement, while Clover clung close to Ash, who scanned the shadows with quiet vigilance. The meadow was deceptively peaceful, its grasses swaying like a green sea, but the air carried a hint of something sharp, fox, perhaps, or the lingering scent of the storm's destruction. Their first challenge came at the edge of the meadow, where the path dipped into the whispering wood. The trees here were ancient, their gnarled branches twisting like skeletal fingers against the fading light. A rustling in the underbrush froze the kittens in their tracks. Sage's fur bristled, and Thistle crouched, ready to spring. From the shadows emerged a creature. Not a fox, but a hedgehog, its spines glinting like tiny spears. "Who goes there?" it squeaked, its voice surprisingly bold for its size. Sage stepped forward, her voice steady. "We're seeking help for our mother. She's hurt. Do you know the way to the village?" The hedgehog, who called herself Bramble, tilted her head. "The village? That's a dangerous journey for kits like you. Scar prowls the woods, and the creek's bridge is half washed away. But I owe Ember a debt. She once saved my young from a hawk. Follow me, and I'll guide you as far as I can." Grateful, the kittens fell in step behind Bramble, who waddled with surprising speed through the undergrowth. She chattered as they went, warning them of pitfalls. The owl that hunted at night, the slippery stones by the creek, and Scar's unpredictable temper. The wood grew darker, the air thick with the scent of damp earth and pine. Clover's paws trembled, and she whispered, "What if we don't make it?" Ash nudged her gently. "We will. Mother needs us." His words were a quiet anchor, and Clover nodded, her fear easing. But as they neared the creek, a low growl rumbled through the trees. Bramble froze. "Scar!" she hissed, her spines rattling. "Hide!" The kittens scrambled beneath a fern, their hearts pounding. Scar emerged from the shadows, his massive frame scarred and patchy, one ear torn from battles long past. His yellow eyes gleamed with malice as he sniffed the air. "I smell Kits," he snarled, his voice like gravel. "And Ember's scent. Where is she? Hiding, is she? Too weak to face me." Sage's claws dug into the earth, but she held her siblings back with a flick of her tail. Bramble, bristling, rolled into a ball and hissed, "Leave them be, Scar. They're no threat to you." Scar's laugh was a guttural rasp. "No threat? Then why do they trespass? This is my wood." He took a step closer, his claws glinting. Thistle, unable to contain himself, leaped out, hissing, "We're not afraid of you." Scar's eyes narrowed, and he lunged, but Bramble rolled forward, her spines catching him off guard. He yowled, swiping at her, but she was too quick, darting back into the underbrush. "Run!" she squeaked. The kittens bolted, their tiny legs carrying them toward the creek. Scar's roars echoed behind them, but the dense ferns slowed him. They reached the rickety bridge, its wooden planks slick with moss and half-submerged. Sage tested it with a paw, her heart sinking as it creaked ominously. "We have to cross," she said, her voice barely steady. Thistle, reckless as ever, darted ahead, but a plank gave way beneath him, and he yowled as he slipped toward the churning water below. Ash reacted first, sinking his teeth into Thistle's scruff and hauling him back. The bridge groaned, but they pressed on, Clover whimpering as she clung to Sage. The creek roared below, its waters muddy and wild from the storm. On the other side, they collapsed, panting, their fur soaked. Bramble caught up, her spines still bristling. "You're brave, I'll give you that," she said. "But Scar won't forget this. Hurry, the village isn't far." As they pressed deeper into the night, the wood gave way to open fields, and the distant lights of the village flickered like stars. But the journey was far from over. Unbeknownst to the kittens, Scar had not given up. He slunk through the shadows, his eyes fixed on their trail, his heart burning with a grudge older than the kittens themselves. A grudge against Ember, who had once outwitted him and claimed the meadow as her own. The kitten's bravery had sparked something new in the countryside, but it had also awakened a danger they could not yet comprehend. The village lay ahead, a cluster of thatched roofs and chimney smoke silhouetted against the star-dusted sky. The kittens, weary but resolute, trudged through the final stretch of open field, their paws sinking into the dew-soaked grass. Sage led with her silver fur aglow under the moon, her eyes fixed on the flickering lights. Thistle, still shaken from his near-fall at the bridge, kept close, his bravado tempered but not extinguished. Clover's tiny frame shivered, though whether from cold or fear, none could tell. Ash brought up the rear, his black coat nearly invisible, his senses sharp for any sign of Scar or other dangers lurking in the night. Bramble, their hedgehog guide, had parted ways at the field's edge, her spines quivering with unease. "The village is no place for me," she'd said, her voice low. "But find the old woman by the mill. They call her Martha. She's kind to strays and knows the ways of healing. Be wary, though, humans can be unpredictable." With a final nod, she'd vanished into the underbrush, leaving the kittens to face the unknown alone. The air grew thick with new scents as they neared the village. Wood smoke, baked bread, and the sharp tang of metal. The path widened into a cobblestone lane, flanked by cottages with glowing windows. The kittens crouched low, darting from shadow to shadow, their hearts pounding at the strangeness of it all. A dog barked in the distance, and Clover squeaked, pressing against Ash. "It's just noise," he murmured, though his own tail flicked nervously. Sage scanned the lane, her ears swiveling. "The mill," she whispered. "Bramble said it's by the river." They followed the sound of rushing water, the same creek they'd crossed now tamed as it wound through the village. The mill loomed ahead, its great wheel creaking as it turned, water glistening on its wooden slats. Beside it stood a small cottage, its garden overgrown with herbs and flowers. A warm light spilled from the window, and the scent of lavender and liniment wafted out. Sage crept closer, peering through a gap in the shutters. Inside, an old woman sat by a fire, her silver hair braided, her hands deftly sorting dried herbs. A tabby cat lounged on the hearth, its eyes half closed. "That must be Martha," Sage whispered. "But how do we get her to help?" Thistle, his courage returning, puffed out his chest. "I'll go in and demand it." Ash shook his head. "She'll think you're a pest. We need her to trust us." Clover, trembling, offered, "Maybe we just meow?" "Mother said humans like that." Sage nodded, her mind racing. "We'll all go. Together we're impossible to ignore." They scratched at the door, their tiny claws scraping the wood, and let out a chorus of plaintive mews. The tabby inside perked up, leaping to the floor with a hiss. The door creaked open, and Martha's weathered face appeared, her eyes widening at the sight of 4 bedraggled kittens. "Well now," she said, her voice warm but curious. "What's this? Lost, are you?" She knelt, her hands gentle as she scooped up Clover, who froze but didn't struggle. The tabby, named Pippin by the scent of him, stalked forward, sniffing suspiciously. "Easy, Pippin," Martha chuckled. "They're just babes." Sage, sensing their chance, stepped forward and mewed urgently, her eyes locked on Martha's. She pawed at the air, then turned toward the woods, hoping to convey their need. Martha's brow furrowed. "You're trying to tell me something, aren't you?" she murmured. She set Clover down and stood, grabbing a shawl and a basket from a hook. Pippin watched the house. "I'll see what these little ones are about." The kittens led her back toward the field, their tiny legs straining to keep pace as Martha followed, her lantern casting a golden pool of light. The journey back was faster, the path familiar now, but the night felt heavier, as if the shadows themselves were watching. As they reached the whispering wood, a chilling yowl split the air. Scar. He emerged from the trees, his massive form blocking the path, his eyes burning with rage. "You thought you could escape me?" he snarled, his gaze flicking to Martha. "And you brought a human into my territory?" Martha froze, her hand tightening on the basket. "Good heavens," she whispered, seeing the tomcat's size and scars. The kittens bristled, forming a protective line in front of her. Sage hissed, "Stay away from her." Thistle, reckless as ever, lunged at Scar, but the tom swatted him aside with a single paw, sending him tumbling into the grass. Clover squealed, and Ash darted forward, sinking his teeth into Scar's tail. The tom roared, spinning, but Ash was already gone, vanishing into the shadows. Martha, recovering her wits, reached into her basket and pulled out a small vial. With a swift motion, she uncorked it and tossed it at Scar. A cloud of pungent herbs, valerian and something sharper, exploded around him. He coughed, staggering back, his eyes watering. "Go!" Martha shouted, and the kittens ran, leading her toward the burrow. Scar's yowls faded behind them, but Sage knew he wasn't finished. His grudge ran deep, tied to a long-ago fight where Ember had humiliated him before the other strays, claiming the meadow as her own. They reached the burrow at dawn, the sky blushing pink. Ember lay inside, her breathing shallow, her legs swollen and hot. Martha knelt, her hands gentle as she examined the injury. "Poor thing," she murmured. "A bad break, but I've seen worse." From her basket, she produced bandages, salves, and a small splint, working with a skill that spoke of years tending to strays. The kittens watched, wide-eyed, as she cleaned the wound and set the bone, Ember stirring only to lick Sage's head weakly. As Martha worked, she spoke softly. "You're brave, little ones. Most wouldn't dare the woods for their kin." But the moment of peace was shattered by a rustling outside. Scar had followed, his silhouette looming at the burrow's entrance. This time, though, he wasn't alone. 2 other Toms, lean and battle-scarred, flanked him. "You can't hide forever," Scar growled. "This ends now." Sage's heart pounded, but she saw something in her mother's eyes, a flicker of the old fire. Ember struggled to her feet, leaning on the splint, and let out a fierce yowl. The kittens joined her, their tiny voices rising in defiance. Martha, undaunted, stood and clapped her hands sharply, the sound echoing like thunder. "Enough!" she bellowed, her voice carrying the weight of someone who'd faced worse than feral cats. The Toms hesitated, and in that moment, Pippin, who'd followed unseen, leaped from the shadows, hissing and swiping at Scar's flank. The fight was brief but fierce. Scar, overwhelmed by the combined force of the kitten's defiance, Martha's resolve, and Pippin's unexpected attack, retreated with his allies, their tails low. The burrow fell silent, save for Ember's ragged breaths and the soft cooing of the morning doves. Martha knelt again, stroking Ember's fur. "You've got a family worth fighting for," she said, smiling at the kittens. She promised to return with food and check on Ember's leg, leaving them with a warmth they hadn't known since the storm. As the sun rose, the kittens curled around their mother, their tiny bodies a shield of love. Ember's eyes, though tired, shone with pride. The countryside stretched beyond, vast and wild, but the burrow was home, and they had proven it was worth any peril. Scar's shadow lingered, a threat not fully vanquished, but for now, the kittens had won. Their bravery had saved their mother, and in doing so, they'd etched their own legend into the whispering fields.